Hello and welcome to the second episode of Bettrek. To bravely go where a few bettors have gone before. I suggest you look at my first episode to find out what we're all about, rather than not get into it, but it's about 10 minutes. So please go there and check out what we're all about. I'm trying to make betting fun, basically, is the point, but we're doing it responsibly and legally through legalized websites. And we only bet on games we watch to make sure that that responsibility carries forward. So, the first bet that Bettrek made was on Tuesday night, and it was in baseball, which I've suggested in my first episode that that's the least successful of my betting attempts. But as I said, I was getting anxious because I know tonight, Thursday night, being Monday Night Football, I just thought I'd try to make a little extra money. And I was on a roll in baseball betting. And, I figured I'd try to continue my streak. So what I do is I look for opportunities, and those opportunities pan out. And in this case, I thought it would. Specifically, let's get into it. 1 second. So the first ever Bettrek bet made was A's over Yankees after 6.5 innings. The score was tied 1-1. A's are usually great ever since the All-Star break in one-run games. They were up 1-0, and they have a great relief. And Juris Familia, who was a former Met, came in, and he's been pitching great for the A's, but I know he has lapses every now and then. And he got to a situation where his bases loaded, nobody out. And that was the potential for the Yankees to go crazy in that inning. But they only gave up 1 run. So the score was tied 1-1 after 6.5 innings. So given the A's record regarding that, and they're great in one-run games, they had the better relief. Yankees didn't have their top closer, Ronaldus Chapman. He was out, and their relief has been somewhat questionable. I thought it would be a great game to take at the time. The top of the order was coming up to bat for the A's, and the very first batter came up, got a single. He was on first base, and that's when they decided to change pitchers. They changed this Hap guy, and he only made 78 pitches, and they changed him out regardless, and that turned out to be a good move. I thought they would keep him in there given his pitch count was so low. So this other pitcher comes in, and he's a big curveball thrower, but the A's have got their best hitters coming up. Lowry, Chris Davis, Hudson, and what happens, and Piscotty, and Lowry strikes out. Davis walks, so it's first and second with 1 out. And they still got Piscotty coming up and Hudson. And they both ended up striking out to that big curveball from the Yankees pitcher. I still don't know his name. I have to figure it out. But he had a massive curveball, and they couldn't figure him out. His fastball was 93, 94, and he threw it. And when he did throw it, obviously it threw them off because, that big curveball was... They didn't know how to handle it, and they were just, I don't know. It was horrible watching these guys, the best hitters, just whiff at that curveball. It was amazing to me. But needless to say, the A's didn't score in that inning. I expected them to score, maybe in that inning, but later on. And then, like I said, they have the better relief. They had Fernando Rodney still, and they had a couple other relievers, and then they had their super closer. And... But they never got to the closer part because Fernando Rodney gave up 2 runs in the 7th, and that made it 3-1. So in the 8th rather. So after 7.5, it was 3-1, and then in the 9th they gave up another 2 runs. They made it 5-1. So it's like the A's just gave up in those latter 3 innings, but they haven't done that since this All-Star break, and that's why they've been on a tremendous run, and they're going to probably be in the playoffs over the Mariners, for that second wild card spot, perhaps even get the top wild card spot, and where the Yankees have to come visit them in Oakland rather than them going to New York. So, that was just a bad, that's baseball. I mentioned here things happen more frequently than expected. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, the Red Sox were down 7-1 going into the eighth inning, and they scored 6 runs in the eighth. I mean, against who is it they played? They played the Braves, who's leading the National League East. So, anything can happen in baseball. It happens more frequently than expected, which is why, betting on baseball is tough because, even you don't know what's going to happen. You think you got a team figured out in terms of what they're going to do, and then they turn around and screw you, which is what happened to me. So I didn't even bother betting on Wednesday night because I didn't want to, go into NFL. I figured my streak was over in baseball in terms of the bets I had made, but the first Bettrek bet was my losing bet in baseball. I bet 40 pounds to win at 4 to 6 odds. So that's 67 cents to the dollar times 40, which would have been that's about $26. So anyway, I kind of lost that. So, but looking back, was it a bad bet? I don't think it was. It's just it's baseball. You can't. It's not an exact science, especially in baseball. So I ended up losing that bet. So anyway, I had, like I said, I had a credit. I bet 40 pounds, and now my credit is, I still have a significant credit. So using that credit, NFL season begins. College is also started, but I don't like to really look at college until October. Teams usually schedule easy games. I mean, there are some good games. For instance, Clemson is playing Texas A&M. I might watch that game, and please log into Twitter on Saturday, or I might mention it to you over a next post I have to make for the Sunday games on NFL. But if I make that post before Saturday's games in college, I'll let you know. But I really don't like looking at college games until October. That's when I think they really get good. But there were some good games in the first week. I mean, Michigan played Notre Dame. Miami played LSU. But, I don't follow what's going on in the preseason with these teams. And it would just be a complete guess. Perhaps I could have done some research relative to what other people might think was going to happen. But like I said, I don't really get into college until things firm up a bit. Okay, so let's go to the NFL. Tonight, first game in the NFL, Falcons versus Eagles. The spread is Eagles -1. The sensible pick everybody's taking is that Falcons will win this game. And I personally, I thought so before in my last post. You can check it out. I give more detail as to why in this particular post. I say Atlanta, Matt Ryan is way better than Nick Foles. I assume Nick Foles was playing and not Carson Wentz in my last post, and I turned out to be right. Plus, they have a better secondary, and the Eagles are missing Alshon Jeffries and they're one of their top linebackers. I forget his name. The Eagles don't have the firepower. They have a new offensive coordinator, and they're going to play conservative. They're going to try to play ball control, keep the Falcons off the field because the Falcons are way more explosive than the Eagles. Last thing they want is to have the Falcons on there and Julio Jones going crazy, and he's ready to. He just saw Liddell Beckham Jr. get this massive contract, and he's looking to get paid himself. So you can expect him to be going hard, and all Matt Ryan has to do really is get him the ball. I see Julio Jones having a big game, but my point is everybody's taking him. It is, it seems like an obvious pick, which is not a good sign. I have friends out there that have told me in years past, when you see everybody going one way, that's not good because that's a sucker's bet. And it is the opening game of the season. There's a lot that, that could happen. People just, aren't ready to, they fumble the ball. They make stupid penalties. The flow of the game is not right because the play calling is just not there. It's just clock management, all these things. And I think, if you consider intangibles, I think the Eagles have a slight favor because they're at home. And Peterson, well, he won the Super Bowl. Mike Schmidt, he's the guy. I think his name is Mike Schmidt, the Falcons coach. He's he's a good coach, but he can't seem to put them over. But this is a regular season game, although it's the first game. So, there's a lot of intangibles, I think, that people aren't factoring in. which is why I don't. I mean, I like to take the bet, but I think I'm just gonna hang back only because it's the first game of the season. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I take the Falcons. I put a small wager on them straight up, based on my credit, and then have extra money to go the other way if I think things are really going bad in terms of my initial bet. But if I took them and things are going great, I'm just going to hold on and take my winnings as is. So basically, that's my point. Is the Bettrek strategy is to hold off on betting. Things rarely go as you foresee them. But you should try to foresee them, not to say don't give it a shot. Give it a shot, and if you foresee it, then that's all the better for you. If you've obviously made a bet beforehand, and then wait for my live recommendation on Twitter. My username is Bettrek Wins. Bettrek's username is Bettrek Wins. So please check that out. Again, I'm sorry if anybody took that bet on the first game, but as I said in my first post, baseball is my least favorite sport to bet on, only because of the unpredictability that exists more so in it than most other sports American sports, and basketball and football specifically. So anyway, I'm looking forward to tonight's game. Very excited. So I will be watching, and please look out for me on Twitter. Thanks.